GrannyDee squirrel listeners. I'm back on the Chromebook, so no, not that. Pray. Just don't cut off on me. We are in chapter 1 of the last year in this book, year 3, for Anne of Windy Poplars. Windy Poplars, chapter 1. Windy Poplars, Spooks Lane, September 8th, dearest. The summer is over, the summer in which I have seen you only that weekend in May, and I'm back at Windy Poplars for my third and last year in Summerside High. Catherine and I had a delightful time together at Green Gables, and I'm going to miss her dreadfully this year. The new junior teacher is a jolly little personage, chubby and rosy and friendly as a puppy, but somehow there's nothing more to her than that. She has sparkling, shallow blue eyes with no thought behind them. I like her. I'll always like her. Neither more nor less. There's nothing to discover in her. There was so much to discover in Catherine when you once got past her guard. There is no change at Windy Poplars. Yes, there is. The old red cow has gone to her long home. So Rebecca Dew sadly informed me when I came down to supper Monday night. The widows have decided not to bother with another one, but to get milk and cream from Mr. Cherry. This means that little Elizabeth will come no more to the garden gate for her new milk. But Mrs. Campbell seems to have grown reconciled to her coming over here when she wants to, so that does not make much difference now. And another change is brewing, Aunt Kate told me, much to my sorrow, that they have decided to give Dusty Miller away as soon as they can find a suitable home for him. When I protested, she said they were really driven to it for peace's sake. Rebecca Dew has been constantly complaining about him all summer, and there seems to be no other way of satisfying her. Poor Dusty Miller, and he's such a nice, prowly, purry darling. And I thought Rebecca Dew really liked him, although she acted like she didn't. Tomorrow being Saturday, I'm going to look after Mrs. Raymond's twins while she goes to Charlottetown to the funeral of some relative. Mrs. Raymond is a widow who came to our town last winter. Rebecca Dew and the Windy Poplars widows, really, Summerside is a great place for widows, think her a little too grand for Summerside, but she was really a wonderful help to Catherine and me in our dramatic club activities. One good turn deserves another. Gerald and Geraldine are 8 and are a pair of angelic-looking youngsters, but Rebecca Dew pulled a mouth, that means face, to use one of her own expressions, when I told her what I was going to do. But I love children, Rebecca. Children, yes, but them's holy terrors, Miss Shirley. Mrs. Raymond doesn't believe in punishing children no matter what they do. She says she's determined they'll have a natural life. They take people in by that saintly look of theirs. But I've heard what her neighbors have to say of them. The minister's wife called one afternoon. Well, Mrs. Raymond was sweet as sugar pie to her, but when she was leaving, a shower of Spanish onions came flying down the stairs, and one of them knocked her hat off. Children always behave so abominably when you especially want them to be good, was all Mrs. Raymond said. Kinder, as if she was kinder instead of kindly. And as if she was rather proud of them being so unmanageable. They're from the state, you know, as if that explained everything. Rebecca has about as much use for Yankees, which I'm one of, even though I live in the South, if you're from the U.S., and a lot of other countries were Yankees. Yankees, as Mrs. Lynde has. Let's go ahead and read chapter 2 since that was so short. Saturday afternoon, Anne betook herself to the pretty old-fashioned cottage on a street that straggled out into the country, where Mrs. Raymond and her famous, or infamous, twins lived. Mrs. Raymond was all ready to depart, rather gaily dressed for a funeral, perhaps. especially with regard to the beflowered hat perched on top of the smooth brown waves of hair that flowed around her head, but looking very beautiful. The 8-year-old twins who had inherited her beauty were sitting on the stairs, their delicate faces wreathed with a quite cherubic expression. They had complexions of pink and white, large china blue eyes, and they had some, I'm not sure of that word, fine, fluffy, pale yellow hair. They smiled with engaging sweetness when their mother introduced them to Anne and told them that dear Miss Shirley had been so kind as to come over and take care of them while Mother was away at dear Aunt Ella's funeral, and of course they would be good and not give her one teeny-weeny bit of trouble, wouldn't they, darlings? The darlings nodded gravely and contrived, though it didn't seem possible, to look more angelic than ever. Mrs. Raymond took Anne down the walk of the gate with her. "They're all I've got now," she said pathetically. "Perhaps I may have spoiled them a little. I know people say I have. People always know so much better how you ought to bring up your children than you know yourself. Haven't you noticed, Miss Shirley? But I think loving is better than spanking any day. Don't you, Miss Shirley? I'm sure you will have no trouble with them. Children always know whom they can play on and whom they can't. Don't you think? That poor old Miss Prouty up the street, I had her to stay with them one day, but the poor darlings couldn't bear her, so of course they teased her a good bit. You know what children are. She has revenged herself by telling the most ridiculous tales about them all over town, but they'll just love you, and I know they'll be angels. Of course they have high spirits, but children should have, don't you think? It's so pitiful to see children with a cowed appearance, isn't it? I like them to be natural, don't you? Too good children don't seem natural, do they? Don't let them sail their boats in the bathtub or go wading in the pond, will you? I'm so afraid of them catching cold. Their father died of pneumonia. Mrs. Raymond's large blue eyes looked as if they were going to overflow, but she gallantly blinked the tears away. Don't worry if they quarrel a little. Children always do quarrel, don't you think? Don't you think? But if any outsider attacks them, my dear, they really just worship each other, you know. I could have taken one of them to the funeral, but they simply wouldn't hear of it. They've never been separated a day in their lives, and I couldn't look after twins at a funeral. Could I now? Don't worry, Mrs. Raymond, said Anne kindly. I'm sure Gerald and Geraldine and I will have a beautiful, beautiful day together. I love children. Oh, I feel like she's in for it, don't y'all? I know it. I felt sure the minute I saw you that you loved children. One can always tell, don't you think? There's something about a person who loves children. Poor old Miss Prouty detests them. She looks for the worst in children, and so of course she finds it. You can't conceive what a comfort it is to me to reflect that my darlings are under the care of one who loves and understands children. I'm sure I'll quite enjoy the day. You might take us to the funeral, shrieked Gerald, suddenly sticking his head out of an upstairs window. We never have any fun like that. Oh, they're in the bathroom, exclaimed Mrs. Raymond tragically. Dear Miss Shirley, please go and take them out. Gerald, darling, you know Mother couldn't take you both to the funeral. Oh, Miss Shirley, he's got that coyote skin from the parlor floor tied round his neck by the paws again. He'll ruin it. Please make him take it off at once. I must hurry or I'll miss the train. Mrs. Raymond sailed elegantly away, and Anne ran upstairs to find that the angelic Geraldine had grasped her brother by the legs and was apparently trying to hurl him bodily out of the window. Miss Shirley, make Gerald stop putting out his tongue at me, she demanded fiercely. Does it hurt you? Asked Anne smilingly. Well, he's not going to put out his tongue at me, retorted Geraldine, darting a baleful look at Gerald, who returned it with interest. My tongue's my own, and you can't stop me from putting it out when I like, can she, Miss Shirley? Anne ignored the question. Twins, dear, It's just an hour till lunchtime. So, shall we go and sit in the garden and play games and tell stories? And Gerald, won't you put that coyote skin back on the floor? But I want to play wolf, said Gerald. He wants to play wolf, cried Geraldine, suddenly aligning herself on her brother's side. We want to play wolf, they both cried together. A peal from the doorbell cut the knot of Anne's dilemma. Come on and see who it is, cried Geraldine. They flew to the stairs and by reason of sliding down the banisters got to the front door much quicker than Anne, the coyote skin coming unloosed and drifted away in the process. We never buy anything from peddlers, Gerald told the lady standing on the doorstone. Doorstone? He said a doorstep. Can I see your mother? Asked the caller. No, you can't. Mother's gone to Aunt Ella's funeral. Miss Shirley's looking after us. That's her coming down the stairs. She'll make you scat. Anne did rather feel like making the caller scat when she saw who it was. Miss Pamela Drake was not a popular caller in Summerside. She was always canvassing for something, and it was generally quite impossible to get rid of her unless you bought it, since she was utterly impervious to snubs and hints, and had apparently all the time in the world at her command. This time she was taking orders for an encyclopedia, something no school teacher could afford to be without. Vainly Anne protested that she did not need an encyclopedia. The high school already possessed a very good one. 10 years out of date, said Miss Pamela firmly. We'll just sit down here on this rustic bench, Miss Shirley, and I'll show you my prospectus. I'm afraid I haven't time, Miss Drake. I have the children to look after. It won't take but a few minutes. I've been meaning to call on you, Miss Shirley, and I call it real fortunate to find you here. Run away and play, children, while Miss Shirley and I skim over this beautiful prospectus. Mother's hired Miss Shirley to look after us, said Geraldine with a toss of her aerial curls, but Geraldine had tugged her backwards and they slammed the Gerald had tugged her backward and they slammed the door shut. You see, Miss Shirley, what this encyclopedia means? Look at the beautiful paper. Feel it, the splendid engravings. No other encyclopedia on the market has half the number of engravings. The wonderful print. A blind man could read it, and all for $80. $8 down and $8 a month till it's all paid. You'll never have such another chance. We're just doing this to introduce it. Next year it will be 120. Good grief. But I don't want an encyclopedia, Miss Drake, said Anne desperately. Of course you want an encyclopedia. Everyone wants an encyclopedia. A national encyclopedia. I don't know how I lived before I became acquainted with the National Encyclopedia. Live? I didn't live. I merely existed. Look at that engraving of the cassowary, Miss Shirley. Did you ever really see a cassowary before? But, Miss Drake, if you think the terms are a little too onerous, I feel sure I can make a special arrangement for you being a school teacher, 6 a month instead of 8. You simply can't refuse an offer like that, Miss Shirley. Anne almost felt she couldn't. Wouldn't it be worth $6 a month to get rid of this terrible woman who had so evidently made up her mind not to go until she'd gotten an order? Besides, what were the twins doing? They were alarmingly quiet. Suppose they were selling their boats in the bathtub, or had sneaked out the back door and gone wading in the pond. She made one more pitiful effort to escape. I'll think this over, Miss Drake, and let you know. There's no time like the present, said Miss Drake briskly, getting out her fountain pen. You know you're going to take the National, so you might just as well sign for it now as any other time. Nothing is ever gained by putting things off. The price may go up any moment, and then you'd have to pay 120. Sign here, Miss Shirley. Anne felt the fountain pen being forced into her hand. Another moment, and then there was such a blood-curdling shriek from Miss Drake that Anne dropped the fountain pen under the clump of golden glow that flanked the rustic seat and gazed in amazed horror at her companion. Was that Miss Drake? That indescribable object, hatless, spectacleless, almost hairless, hat, spectacles, front teeth were floating in the air above her head halfway up to the bathroom window, out of which two golden heads were hanging. Gerald was grasping a fishing rod to which were tied two cords ending in fish hook. By what magic he had contrived to make a triple catch. He got her hat, her hair, and her glasses, it sounds like. Only he could have told. Probably it was sheer luck. Anne flew into the house and upstairs. By the time she reached the bathroom, the twins had fled. Gerald had dropped the fishing rod, and a peep from the window revealed a furious Miss Drake retrieving her belongings. Oh, there was her teeth, too, wasn't it? Didn't it say? Let me look. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Hatless, spectacleless, almost hairless, hat, spectacles, false front. I guess not her teeth. Okay, they couldn't have got her teeth out, I reckon. Oh, my lands. Anyway, she was out front picking up her stuff and marching to the gate. For once in her life, Miss Pamela Drake had failed to land her order, and discovered the twins seraphically eating apples on the back porch. It was hard to know what to do. Certainly such behavior could not be allowed to pass without a rebuke, but Gerald had undoubtedly rescued her from a difficult position, and Miss Drake was an odious creature who needed a lesson. Still, "You've had a great big worm," shrieked Gerald. "I saw it disappear down your throat." Geraldine laid down her apple and promptly turned sick, very sick. Anne had her hands full for some time, and when Geraldine was better, it was lunch hour, and Anne suddenly decided to let Gerald off with a very mild reproof. After all, no lasting harm had been done Miss Drake, who would probably hold her tongue religiously about the incident for her own sake. "Do you think, Gerald," she said gently, "that what you did was a gentlemanly action?" "Nope," said Gerald, "but it was good fun. Gee, I'm some fisherman, ain't I?" The lunch was excellent. Mrs. Raymond had prepared it before she left, and whatever her shortcomings as a disciplinarian might be, she was a good cook. Gerald and Geraldine, being occupied with gorging, did not quarrel or display worse table manners than the general run of children. After lunch, Anne washed the dishes, getting Geraldine to help dry them, and Gerald to put them carefully away in the cupboard. They were both quite knacky at it, and Anne reflected complacently that all they needed was wise training and a little firmness. And that's all, so we'll stop there. Oh, my goodness. Y'all have a happy day, and I hope I see you live at 5 today. Tea with me, GrannyDee. Bring your projects to work on, or bring your tea, or whatever your beverage of choice is, or a snack, whatever you want to bring. Or just come and watch and have fun and chat. Love to you all. Be sweet. Don't be ugly. Love you bunches. Bye-bye.